This episode of the George Poulos podcast is brought to you by one-on-one sessions with me. This is something brand new I'm offering. It's a one-on-one session with me, a 40-minute conversation on Zoom where we can talk about a spiritual predicament you're going through, something you're going through with love and relationships, a question about meditation, or we can just have a free-flowing conversation, a moment of shared presence together. And I'm really excited to be offering these sessions. And so if you feel compelled to speak with me, one-on-ones are now available, currently at $40 for a 40-minute session. If you are interested, link and all the information is below. And I very much look forward to speaking one-on-one with you. Now here's the episode. All right. Welcome back to the George Poulos podcast. I just had a really peaceful, recharging, aligned day. I didn't expect I would sit down and record a podcast today, but it just feels like what I'm supposed to be doing. So here I am. It feels very peaceful in here right now. It's the evening, sun is setting, kind of a cloudier day, which is just creating this like serene sense of peace. Anyways, in this episode, this is a topic-focused episode. I'm going to be talking about monogamy and non-monogamy. Taking this from a spiritual lens, I've had experiences with monogamy, with non-monogamy. I've been on a big journey with this. And allow me to speak freely in this episode. This should go without saying by now, but all of these episodes are open explorations. I'm after the truth. I'm not defaulting to conditioned beliefs in anything, right? Monogamy is one of the things that we were very, very, very deeply conditioned into. We were taught that monogamy is the way to give and receive love in romantic relationships. I'm past the point of just accepting conditioning and conditioned beliefs anymore. So I've taken a good hard look at monogamy and I have my views on it. But like I said, I'm never here claiming to know the truth. I'm just sharing experiences and observations from my own heart. So I will say, if you're anything like me, the perspectives I'm about to share are going to set you free, right? That's always the goal, is to just find ourselves through the veil of what society, parents, and conditioning has taught us. I knew for a while I would make an episode about non-monogamy, but I did get a great question on Instagram that I will read now. I've been exploring a romantic connection and found myself noticing the way I navigate relationships usually came from a place of ego. It has me questioning how I should navigate them now. I've been really inspired by Ram Dass, and he said that the desires of a relationship destroys the things we want because it gets in the way of sharing awareness with another being, which is the ultimate intimacy. This has me questioning, is desiring monogamy an ego-based need, or is it simply a way of being and how we want to share our energy with people? Just wondering if you've thought of this or have any advice. And now let's let the open exploration begin. This is a huge topic, and I have a lot to say, and I don't know exactly how to enter this topic, so let's just see what comes out. I think the first thing that's really important to acknowledge is that monogamy is a very firm, a very ingrained belief in this society, right? Monogamy is the image of romantic love portrayed in popular culture. It seems like everybody is after that perfect monogamous relationship. I know growing up, it seemed like everyone's parents were either in a monogamous relationship or they were divorced or separated. You know, the way I see it when I grew up and experiencing the conditioning of my upbringing, it was like, you're going for a monogamous relationship. That's kind of the goal of love, right? That's what love is. It's finding a monogamous relationship, and monogamy is something that was so ingrained that I didn't start questioning it for a long, long time, right? I got into my first relationship in the 6th grade. Obviously monogamous. I was a kid. You don't question something that's so societally ingrained when you're in the 6th grade. You just do it. 6th grade relationship was monogamous. Freshman year of high school relationship was monogamous. Junior year of high school relationship was monogamous. College relationship was monogamous. It was only after college, as I started awakening, that I actually began to take a look at monogamy. And what I would, off the bat, what I'm going to suggest to everyone listening is at least take a look at monogamy. Don't just blindly follow into it because that's what everybody does, because that's what society tells you to do. This is a general rule of thumb, I suppose. Like, don't blindly buy into what everyone else is doing. At least take a look at it. And again, with monogamy, it's like so ingrained, it's seemingly so accepted that it almost just feels like, oh, that's just what you do, right? So it's tempting to not even take a look at it, but I highly recommend taking a look at it. And in my case, when I started to take a look at it, I saw a lot of problems with monogamy. And forgive me for jumping around. This is not going to be very linear. I'm just going to need to share thoughts as they arise. I don't think there is something inherently wrong with monogamy, but I do think there is a huge problem when monogamy is enforced. In other words, I think monogamy can be born naturally. But I think most of the times monogamy exists because two people agreed on monogamy out of fear, right? Because we were conditioned to believe that in order to love someone, we can't love anybody else in that way. And vice versa. We were taught that our romantic partner, for them to truly love us, they have to only choose us in that way. Right? So then when you start dating someone, if you haven't taken a conscious look at these patterns and these behaviors that we default into, when you start dating someone, it's almost like you immediately start wondering whether this will turn into a monogamous relationship. The big problem with this, especially doing it unconsciously without awareness, is, let me just ask this question. Why do we need to control what another person is doing? Why do I feel the need to control what another person is doing with their body? Why do I feel the need to control what another person is doing with other people? Right? As I started to take a look at this stuff, and I had a pull towards monogamy, right? I had many monogamous long-term relationships. But why do I feel this need to become monogamous? And I'll tell you what I found is that it came from a place of insecurity. It came from a place of, I need to feel like this person is serious. I need to feel like this person really loves me. I need to feel secure. I need to feel like they're not going to go anywhere. I need to feel like they're not going to find someone else. And there's like a, right, if we agree to be monogamous, then I don't have to think about the idea of them hooking up with someone else, being with someone else, going on a date with someone else. These thoughts, right? Before I took a look into these things, this idea of someone I like being with someone else intimately, it's just too scary. It's too threatening. You don't even want to look at it in your mind because it causes such an ego reaction. It's too intense. So you push it down. And the way you push that down is with monogamy. So when we're starting to date someone, why are we having this feeling that we want them to be monogamous with us, right? I think it's important to take a very close look and make sure that you're not trying to control that person in order to hit some ego need in yourself. Because if you are doing that, then that love is not totally pure. That love is actually a desire to use someone so that you feel good, so that you feel loved. It indicates a lack and a scarcity mindset. Right. So as I took a look at my past patterns, I found that I got into monogamy out of fear, out of a desperation, out of a need to control that person in order to feel secure. I think there's another way that monogamy can be born. And it's that both people just naturally fall into monogamy, right? It's not such a choice. It's not such a contract. It's literally like two free beings who are experiencing love simply just continue to choose each other, right? So monogamy can be born naturally in that way. I just think it's very dangerous to create a contract of monogamy, because then it feels like two people are controlling each other and possessing each other, right? If we are trusting the universe and our partner or we meet someone else and there's a natural pulling to develop an intimate connection with them, what is wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with that? Is there even any reason to be threatened by that? We have this, there's this thing that we all seem to be playing where it's like, when you get into a relationship, you possess that person. And when you possess that person, suddenly there becomes the threat of losing that person. And I think that's why non-monogamy becomes so uncomfortable for people. It's because they're used to possessing their partner, right? When we operate on ego, when we think we are somebody, I am my career, I am my relationship, right? The strength of my relationship, the strength of my romantic relationship is a part of who I am. So I need that romantic relationship to remain strong in order to continue being me, right? Your sense of self is on the line. And that person is one of your possessions, just like your apartment and your job and all your things and accomplishments, right? You turn your lover into a possession, you're objectifying them, and you don't want anyone else to take them, right? Because you're coming at love from a possessive mind. So then when other people get involved, it becomes a competition. There's a way to love that's not possessive at all. This kind of love is born in a total permeating self-love. This is the kind of self-love where you really don't need anything from anybody, right? So you're loving that person from a totally grounded, totally fulfilled place. And if they meet someone else and gravitate towards someone else, so be it, right? Because I'm so whole within myself. I love myself so much. I'm so good on my own that I have no need to control that other person. So if they meet someone else, beautiful, right? If they meet someone else and they elope with that person and leave the country and start a new life, okay, here I am, right? Here I am, I'm still here. And I still love myself. I didn't need that person. We were sharing something. And if that other person meets someone else and they connect, but my lover still loves me and we still share this intimacy, okay, right? See, I think the way that many people are loving other people is not really love. Most people are quote unquote loving other people in order to get something from that other person. And when you're loving that way, you might want to control that person into not being with anybody else, hooking up with anyone else, whatever. It's like so deeply, and monogamy is so deeply ingrained that if your partner so much as has an innocent crush on somebody, or looks at somebody who's attractive, or follows somebody on Instagram who's attractive, there's like this threat. It's like, oh my God, they don't love me. They're paying attention to someone else. It's really, really shallow. And it's to me, it seems like it's an attempt. It's also an attempt to just deny nature. It's like, you got to deny your nature to prove that you love me, right? Whoa, my leg is totally asleep. Holy shit. Whoa. Wow. That's crazy. Wow, I can't feel my foot. That's crazy. Is the message coming through? Like, why is there a need to impose a sense of control or possession on your lover at all? Why does that need exist? It's got to come from a place of lack and scarcity within oneself and a place of fear. So the place that I'm trying to get to has nothing to do with labels. So I'm not really interested in, is monogamy right or is polyamory right? Right? That's not really what I'm after. And I think just like you can be attached to monogamy for ego reasons, so too you can be attached to polyamory for ego reasons, right? Like, you could easily get hooked on polyamory as a way to avoid deep connections with people and as a way to participate in a toxic hookup culture, right? But there's a place that surpasses all of these labels where you don't really need a label, monogamy, non-monogamy. And again, that place is the place where you've surpassed needing anything from other people whatsoever. It's a place where you've meditated enough, where you've spent enough time alone, where you've spent enough time looking into yourself that you realize you already have it all. You don't need to get anything from other people, right? So many of us are showing up to that first date trying to get something from that other person. And so many of us are showing up to that first date and that other person is trying to get something from us. It's very rare that two whole and complete people meet and simply share a dance, right? I've been loving the dancing analogies, right? So in a ideal, enlightened place, here's how I see it. Two people come together and dance, but we're on a dance floor with a lot of other people, and everyone is totally content dancing on their own. And when two people who are content dancing on their own come together, it creates a shared dance, a beautiful dance. It's an expansive dance. It's beautiful. It's love, right? It's shared love. It's a shared dance. But I'll call it toxic monogamy, now you're sharing a dance with someone, and now you're getting paranoid that other people on the dance floor are looking at your partner. And you're getting paranoid that your partner is looking at other people on the dance floor, and you start to close off. You start to cut yourself off from the world. And the dance becomes less free. It becomes, you guys enter a cage. You both voluntarily enter a cage for the sake of monogamy. And then suddenly, like, your freedom is a threat to the other, and the other's freedom is a threat to you. So you put up the cage, and the cage feels very, very safe. But you're cutting off the life force of each human being. You're turning each human being into an object, right? A person is defined by freedom. Everybody is a process. Nobody is a static thing, right? So these contracts of monogamy are very, very dangerous, and they might feel really good, and they might feel really comfortable. Your ego's going to feel great. Your ego's going to feel like you got that person. You got that secure relationship. But you're making it impossible to be free, right? And again, this differs from what I would call healthy monogamy or natural monogamy, or a monogamy that simply ended up happening. There's no contract. You both just are continuing to choose to dance with one another, right? You're dancing on the dance floor with your partner, and you're still open to the world. You're totally free beings, and you're vibing together, and you're dancing, and you just keep dancing, and there's no paranoia. There's no trying to put the other person into a cage. There's no jealousy. And your partner is free to look around the dance floor to see what's out there in the world. And they're free to continue choosing you as well, right? Here's another way to put it. There's something, right? A relationship is when you choose each other, right? But when you start to enforce monogamy, and again, you're going to have to take a close look at whether you're forcing monogamy or whether it's just arisen spontaneously. If you enforce monogamy, if you need that monogamy in order to feel secure, you've actually eliminated the ability for your partner to choose you, right? Because now your partner's in a cage. Being with you is not a choice anymore. Being with you is an obligation. You've both decided we have to be with each other and only each other. We're in a cage. So you've actually taken the freedom out of it. You've taken the choice out of it. Now you're in a contract. Now you're in a prison with your partner. There's no choice. You're not choosing each other anymore. You're letting fear dictate. But in openness, in freedom, when no restrictions have been placed on the other person, again, because both of you already love each other, or both of you are working on loving each other so much that you're ready to face the fear, and you're ready to face all the dramas that your ego is going to throw, and you're dedicated to the truth. When you're dancing or relating with someone in pure freedom, then choosing each other remains a choice in each moment, and that choice is significant, and that relationship is alive in each moment. It's really alive because no one's being forced anymore. Both parties are completely, think about that. Both people are completely free to do whatever they want, to be with whoever they want out there in the world, but they're still choosing each other. That's, in my opinion, a more significant relationship than one that is put into a cage because we're scared of losing each other, because our ego needs that other person, right? Relating from a free place is very beautiful in that way, because both people still have the choice, the free choice. And then let's continue on the dance floor analogy, right? Let's say I'm having a phenomenal dance with my partner and they see someone else they want to dance with for a bit. That's a natural phenomenon, right? Am I really going to control that person and say no? Why would I control that person and say no? That's what I'm suggesting we all take a look at. Why would I control that person and say no? Right? If it's just a natural phenomenon. What am I trying to hide from? Like, what am I so afraid of? Right? I'm afraid they're going to leave me. I'm afraid that other person is going to take them from me, right? It's all based in this idea that we possess the other person. But what if it's all just a sharing? What if we're all whole individuals and it's all just an open dance floor, right? Where we can all enjoy love and where nobody's possessing anybody and we all honor and respect each other's freedom, right? In that place, on that enlightened dance floor, two people can dance and dance with just that other person for their whole lives, but there is no cage around them, right? And two people can also dance for the majority of their lives, but also take some moments to dance with other people. And it doesn't have to be, oh, they're stealing them from me. It could be just what is. It could just be what is. This is a very hard one to accept because of how deeply ingrained this stuff is. And, you know, love and relationship, right? It cuts very deep because it cuts all the way down to how we related with our parents when we were babies and children. And we have things, the way that we think we're supposed to relate to people is very deeply ingrained, and it takes a lot of introspection, a lot of exploration in order to open your heart to be open to these sorts of things. And it's not easy because of what we've been taught. And, you know, you can feel this directly. Just think about your partner hooking up with someone else or telling you that they want to go on a date with someone else. You'll feel that conditioning and that pattern deep inside. I think the main question to ask is, why do I feel a need to control my partner? If they want to share an experience with someone else, who am I to impose a control or a restriction on them? And wouldn't I want the same freedom, right? And I'll reiterate that in this place of free love, I do still think monogamy can be born naturally without imposing control, without placing a cage around the couple. I still think it can happen, right? But generally, I think people are getting into some sort of contractual monogamy. like a prison by mutual design. I'll reiterate, I've said this in the podcast. You've got to try to get to a place where you're relating with people without needing anything from them. And if you get to that place, you're going to start to see that a lot of people that are choosing to relate with you are trying to get something from you. And it's very interesting to start to see all this. I've mentioned my manic summer of dating, right? I was deeply engrossed in monogamy for my whole life without even taking a look at it. And when I had an awakening, I was like, holy shit, I bought into monogamy without even taking a look at it. And then I pulled the lever to the other extreme. And so as I was dating, I was telling everybody I was non-monogamous. I was polyamorous. I'm not interested in a traditional relationship. I had non-monogamy on my dating profiles, etc. And it's really interesting what I saw through that summer of dating is that a lot of people did not listen to me. A lot of people felt that my non-monogamy was a phase and they would be able to be patient until I was ready for that monogamous relationship with them. It's really fascinating, right? And I didn't have the awareness to spot this right away, right? It would come out after a few dates where they would freak that I wasn't ready for monogamy yet. And I was like, wait, I thought I told you. I thought I was communicating really well. Now that I look back, I see that, people come into dating a lot of the times thinking that they're going to get something out of you. And even if you tell them who you are, they won't believe you. That's kind of an aside. You know what else? I'm not trying to be too monogamy bashing in this episode, but monogamy instantly eliminates a lot of our ego fears, right? That our partner will meet somebody else and leave us. But here's an interesting rebuttal to that, is that cheating happens in monogamy. Divorce happens in monogamous marriage. Right? It's very dangerous to get into monogamy, to a monogamous contract, because then there becomes a temptation to start being dishonest and to start hiding your natural desires to meet other people, to explore whatever with other people, right? When you're in that monogamy contract, it's and you're someone who you're a flirtatious person. You like to meet new people. Maybe you are polyamorous at heart. You want to love multiple people. I've thought about polyamory in this way before too, where it's like the monogamous standard is very, very rigid. It's like you're in this serious monogamous relationship or you're not. And if you're not, it's not that high tier of a relationship, right? It's somewhere down here. It's like friends are down here, monogamous lovers up here. There's this like ranking system that's very arbitrary. I started to see that like, even if I have a partner and they're the only person I'm having sex with, I actually still see my friends as lovers, as intimate lovers, right? That, if you frame it that way and if you really feel that in your heart, it's already polyamory, right? There's a weird... Where was I going with that? Here, let me bring this up, and this is Out of Intimacy by Osho. So a surface level loving relationship looks like this. One person says, I'll make your ego feel good if you make my ego feel good. The other person agrees. We're both making each other's ego feel great. Monogamy is a part of that contract. But that requires you to wear a mask, right? So if I suddenly want to be intimate with another human being, I have to first suppress that natural desire. Second, lie about it to my partner. Essentially put on a mask, pretend it never even existed, because if I were to be honest about that, it would hurt that other person's ego. Here's how I think non-monogamy can be a avenue into a truly intimate and truly loving and enlightened relationship. Because, right, let's say you're in a relationship, but you start having a crush on someone else. The automatic temptation is to hide the fact that you have a crush on someone else so as not to hurt the ego of your partner. But in a truth relationship, if you want to have a relationship with somebody where there are no masks, where you can be your true naked self with that person, you have to be completely honest, right? If you're scared of hurting their ego, you're putting on a mask. And then, as Osho would say in intimacy, the relationship is two masks relating. It's not the two true persons relating, right? So being open to non-monogamy can make it so that you don't have to hide these things, right? You can say, hey, I have a crush on this girl. You can tell your partner that instead of withholding the truth. And I believe withholding the truth is as good as being dishonest if you're trying to build an intimate relationship with somebody, right? I've always been after an enlightened relationship, and a relationship where I can be 100% myself, where I don't have to hide anything, where I don't have to tiptoe, where I can, in this fucking world of ego games and mask wearing, I've always wanted a relationship where I can finally fucking take off the mask and stop performing. Enforcing monogamy makes it very difficult to do that. As I'm on this train of thought, I'm like, okay, there could be a monogamy that's extremely honest, right? Maybe we've agreed on monogamy, but we still, if one partner has a sudden and powerful urge to be with somebody else, that can still be brought up into the open because there's no fear of hurting the other's ego, because it is still a truth relationship. That could be healthy. The issue I have is I just don't think suppressing natural desire is ever a good avenue. Right? I think that's very dangerous. It's likely that suppressed desire is going to eventually bubble out into anger, resentment. Right? So most of us have never moved into this place of a purely honest relationship, right? Most of us are, telling little white lies, withholding certain truths in order to keep our partner's ego happy, and they're doing the same for us, right? It's not very deep. I think embracing non-monogamy, or at least, I don't even know if non-monogamy versus monogamy is the important question. I think the important thing is, can you be 100% purely fucking honest with your partner? Because the moment you start hiding shit, distance is created, and you're not truly intimate with that person anymore. If you're scared of offending that person because of something that is arising in your being and you have to hide that, then you can't be spiritually naked in front of that person. And then it's just, it might as well be an acquaintance, right? Like, why are we getting into these romantic relationships? Like, don't we all want true intimacy? Don't we want to have at least one person we can stop hiding from? Enforced monogamy makes that impossible, right? You know, do you understand? Right. It's natural. It's natural to have crushes on other people. That having a crush on someone is how we got into this relationship in the first place. Why are we pretending that's just going to stop happening with other people, right? But maybe it will. And beautiful, and more power to you. You got to tell the truth. I don't think monogamy non-monogamy is really that important. You have to be telling the truth, though, the complete truth. You can't withhold things and hide things so as not to offend your partner. Because then you might as well be being dishonest. You are being dishonest about who you are. And I also think we assume that like the relationship is going to fall apart if one person starts liking another person. But it does not have to be that way, right? And if you can tell your partner that you like someone else, you got a little crushy on someone else, you're building true, actual honesty with your partner. And that is so much more valuable than being in a fear-based monogamous contract. As I'm saying all this, another thing to acknowledge is I've had to move through a lot of monogamous relationships in order to come to this understanding about myself. Right? You know, I spent multiple years in relationships, you know, really withholding myself, really limiting myself in that relationship. And I had to learn that that wasn't good for me, that the contract of that relationship was not worth limiting my freedom. Right? I had to go through that in order to learn it. So that's something to keep in mind, right? I didn't just read Osho and come to this intellectual understanding and immediately believe it. I had to move through that shallower form of monogamy to see for myself that it doesn't work. Right? The right relationship should not make you feel limited. The right relationship should make you feel expansive. You should feel even better about growing your wings and flying, right? You shouldn't feel tied down by your partner. That's not the right relationship. The right relationship makes you want to grow wings and fly and go out and face the world with more confidence. The right relationship should make you feel better about being your true, 100% honest, authentic self out in the world and in front of your partner. It should enlighten you. It should make you grow flowers. It should not make you feel limited, small, inhibited, restricted. And it's possible. It's possible to find that enlightened relationship. And if you want it, you have to look inside first. You can't keep trying to get things from other people. It's not going to make you whole. You have to look inside first. Look at your patterns. Look at what you've been doing. You have to meditate. You really have to meditate. You have to look at your shit. You have to face your fears, face everywhere you think you're lacking, face your insecurities. You have to come to your own belief that you are perfect, you are whole, you are a beam of loving light. You don't need anybody. then you can start to dance freely with people. And you don't need to take things from them, and you don't need to turn them into possessions for your own ego. You can just dance with people freely. For those who really want to get into this, polysecure, this is for the Western brain. This is going to teach you how to communicate, how to set boundaries, a more practical guide to non-monogamy. This is for my mystics out there, my self-inquirers, and my meditators. Polysecure feels like almost like a rule book, like a psychoanalytical take. Osho cuts straight, directly to the truth, as close as words can get. I might as well say that I feel like this is the Bible for enlightened love, for enlightened romantic relationships. It's all about loving yourself and loving others from an overflowing place of love, not from a lack of love, because that's when you're going to need things from other people, but loving others from an overflowing place of love. And when you're overflowing with love, you don't need to control someone into monogamy in order for your ego to feel secure. Blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Intimacy by Osho changed me. Really. And please read it with an open mind. Right? It's all about taking that mask off. If you really want to build intimacy with someone, take that mask off. Right? How long are you going to go wearing a mask with the one person you're supposed to be yourself around? Take the mask off. Risk the relationship, right? There's a beautiful quote in here. Risk the relationship to be true. You have to be true. If you're not risking, it's better that the relationship end if it can't sustain the truth. But if the relationship can sustain your truth down to your core, that's how you're going to find a relationship that has no cage, that allows both individuals to spread their wings and fly together, right? Instead of both holding each other down, instead of cutting off each other's wings, which is what we do all too often in relationships. If you want to take it even deeper, which I have, check out Sex Matters by Osho. This is a crazy one, yo. This is a crazy one. This has more to do with sex in particular, but it's also got stuff about non-monogamy. If you really are interested in the truth, right? If you're ready for your ego to be hurt, if you want your ego to be hurt so that you can transcend it, Osho. But I also, want to acknowledge and respect everybody who maybe is hearing this podcast and is like just dismissing it and is like, no way. I'm monogamous. No way. This is crazy. Love and respect to you as well. And you have to honor where you are, and you know where you are. That's why I made the disclaimer at the beginning. This is an open exploration. This is where I am in my journey, and we're all beautifully unique individuals. And you got to be where you are, too. And I'm not trying to force anybody out of their place on their journey. But I do hope I'm speaking to people who are where I am. And maybe I can help you take a little bit of a step forward, right? These relationships, these enlightened relationships can happen, but you have to do the inner work. Whew. All right, let me know what you think. Ask follow-up questions, please. I'd love to get deeper into this. Respectfully challenge me, please. I'm after the truth. I'm not after asserting my view. I'm just trying to figure it out. So please respectfully challenge me, share your... I haven't said this one in a while. Please, like I'm speaking on this podcast very uninhibitedly, please do the same in my comment section. Please do not fear judgment. I'm crafting a non-judgmental, open-hearted community, so please let it out. Don't filter. Don't write the perfect question, the perfect comment. Let your ego aside for this moment and let your creativity flow out into the comments, right? Something is happening here, and you're a part of it. Thank you. Namaste. Godspeed on your journey forward. I'll see you next week.